Good day, everyone. I wanted to do a video showing everyone my method for doing axle swaps. Well, saying my method may come off a little too possessive, so I'll say that this is my modified method of Pouchef-Morobi's method for doing axle swaps. It's not necessarily a better way, it just happens to be my way. Anyway, in front of you are two cars that we're going to do wheel swaps on, the Combat Medic and the 71 Hemi Cuda. The Medic has 5-spoke open wheels, and the Cuda has 5-spoke blacked out closed wheels. I chose these two models because the wheels on them to me would look good swapped, and because it's two different types of wheels for you to see. Behind the cars and in the back are 3 small vials of glass beads made by Toho. 1 gold, 1 copper, and 1 bronze. You can find these at Michael's and Hobby Lobby in the jewelry section. You get 10 grams of beads in each of the $3 vials, which you can do, I would say, up to 100 cars. I'm a little too lazy to count all those beads. Anyway, we'll also be making our own axles using music wire from K&S Precision Metals, stock number 500 and 501. 501 is about the same size as the wire that Mattel uses in all the cars, and 500 is just a hair smaller. I'll explain the difference in sizes in a bit. The wire is optional. You can use the axles that Mattel provides if you like, but this music wire is much stronger and of higher quality. It costs around $10 for 20 pieces, each 36 inches long. You can find it on eBay. Just search for K&S Music Wire 500 or 501. Okay, let's take a closer look at the beads. So I've placed a bunch of the copper and bronze colored beads on some wire. These might be fun to use, but ideally we would like to have silver and black, 2 colors I could not find. Well, that's not really a problem because we can make our own silver and black beads from these beads. To do this, we only need to soak the bronze and copper beads in some hydrochloric acid overnight. Please watch my video on removing chrome from plastic to see this method and all the safety warnings before you attempt it on your own. Once the beads have soaked in the acid, they come out looking like this. As you can see, the copper beads turn silver and the bronze beads turn black. The bronze beads can stay in the acid for as long as you wish, but the copper beads need to be washed, as leaving them in too long will cause them to go clear, which may be desirable in some cases, but here we just want silver. Now the reason I use 2 different sizes of wires is because the beads don't all have the same inside diameter. Some are a hair smaller than what I can fit on the 501 wire. Those, however, will fit the 500 wire perfectly. Both wires work fine on the cars. So let's make up our first axle. I cut off a small section of the 501 wire, and using a Dremel, I'm going to grind off the sharp edges and round the end. This is purely for aesthetics later, though it does also help in allowing the bead on the end of the wire later. The end of the wire does not need to be perfect, just as round as you can get it. Do be careful, as the wire does heat up and the grinding will produce sparks. You don't want any of that in your eye, so be sure to wear eye protection. After the end has been rounded, we can glue one of the beads on the end using superglue. I'm using Loctite gel superglue that dries in seconds, and I do mean seconds, like 2 seconds, so be ready. The wire does not need to protrude out or be level with the side of the bead. In fact, I think it looks best if it's recessed in the bead slightly. Be sure to use something other than your hand or fingers to push on the bead with. Even though the wire is rounded, it could still puncture your skin, so use something else. You'll need to make up 2 of these for each car. I usually make up tons of them, so they're ready to go. There are plenty of videos out there on how to take the cars apart, so for the sake of brevity here, we're going to just start by removing the factory axles. This is done very easily by clipping off the single plastic tab using nippers that you can buy at hobby stores. Very simple. Next, take some wire cutters and cut off the end of the axle. Do be aware that the end will usually fly off at tremendous speeds, so be sure to cut it pointing away from your face. The wheels will fall right off. Now I simply place the wheels on the 2 axles I made earlier, making sure that I put them on correctly. Once they are on, pull both wheels to the end with the bead. Now we can size up the axle. I'm going to use Pouchef-Morobi's method for getting the perfect axle size. Put both wheels on the side with the bead and then place the axle on the car. Then using wire cutters, cut the wire against the frame. Now all we need to do is simply repeat what we did earlier and grind the end of the wire and then glue on the bead on the new end. Once that's done, all we need to do is allow enough time for the glue to set, and then we can place the new axle on the car. Putting the new wheels and axle in the base is as easy as snapping it in where the old axle was before. Usually there's enough of the tab left to hold the axle in place. Now it's time for you to check your work. If your axle is too tight, you'll need to redo it and cut a longer piece of wire. If it's too loose, dip one of the beads in acetone, careful not to get it on the wheels, and then pop it off. When the acetone evaporates, grind more of the wire down and then reglue the bead. After you have what you want, you can put the car back together. So here are the results of my work. I used the black beads on the Medic and the silver beads on the Cuda. I find that the standard closed wheels will allow the bead to recess slightly, while the open spoke wheels will not allow it as much. You can fix this by drilling out the wheel if you so desire. For me, it's not that big of a deal because they're all so small. Remember, on video these cars are magnified. Of course, there are some wheels this won't work on too well, but for most they work great. Either way, I find the cars will work great with the beads and can even take harsh punishment from launchers and playsets. Well, let me know what you think below, and as always, thanks for watching.